Good afternoon, ladies. We're going to go ahead and get started. Let's start with the word of prayer. Our gracious Heavenly Father, I just want to thank you so much for sending your Holy Spirit to help teach us and to guide us and to help us bring things into remembrance, and just that we have Him here that personally with each one of us to help us understand your truths that you have, and I just thank you for that. And Lord, I just pray that today you give understanding to our hearts, that we would understand truths that are not necessarily right out of Scripture the way that some things are, like the Bible study, but they are still truths that you have for us to understand, to help us live as you would have us to live. And I just thank you for these things now, in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, so we do have some handouts. Oh, you got that. Okay. If you would like these handouts, there's the ones that are stapled. There are live links that I have on my computer, but when you go ahead and just photocopy them, they don't come through. And so if you would like those live links, just let me know and I will email it to you, and then you can click on the links and find out more information if you would like. So I will let you know that. I also got permission to show you a couple of cute little videos that I wanted to show you today. So today our topic is going to be terms and definitions. What do things mean? I don't know about you, but there's been a lot of times when I'll be talking with someone and all of a sudden I come to realize, even though we're using the same words, we're not meaning the same thing. So when it comes to what it says on something in the grocery store, we're going to go over some of those terms. What do they mean? So that when you go and you read the label, you know what it's trying to tell you, okay? And what it's not telling you. So some of this, I'm not going to go through every single thing on these. I'll just let you read some of it. But I am going to go through some of these here. Let's go over, first of all, nutrition facts. It's just not stapled, just two-sided. Most of that stuff down there, it's like if you were going to read the nutrition things on the outside of a package, and it goes through the calories and the carbohydrates and cholesterol. It gives you most of that. Dietary fiber is one of the ones that gets to be a little bit confusing. That one gets divided up, and so so dietary fiber is the part of the plant that can't be digested. Why would we need something like that?
To fill you up.
Okay.
Help in elimination.
Help in elimination. If we don't have any fiber, what happens?
We get blocked up.
We get blocked up big time. And it's a very important thing, because one of the biggest forms of cancer out there is cancer of the colon. And people don't realize, they think, well, I'm eliminating normal. They don't understand the definition of normal is different for different people. And you need to be eliminating at least 2 times a day. Okay? Not 2 times a week. It's 2 times a day.
How about every other day?
No.
That doesn't.
If you're not eliminating at least twice a day, that is something you need to work on. Dietary fiber is something that will help you with that. So, whole grains, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds contain fiber. And fiber, like you said, can fill you up. And it also can help lower cholesterol. We don't want too high of cholesterol. And it keeps you regular, like you were mentioning. You need at least 25 to 38 grams daily. And sometimes that's hard to measure, because, you just go and you eat your vegetables and you go, I have not a clue how much I just ate. If you open a package of something and it's listed on the package, then you can tell, because it says how much is on there. But when you just go and get your vegetables and eat them, it's hard to tell. But that's what they say. And I really don't know how to accurately measure that. I really don't. I'm not able to, but that's important. There are also other terms on there that will, especially like on bread, you will see it says enriched. What does that mean? Do you know?
They've taken out the good stuff. That's what I know.
Well, that would be the enriched,
No, I know.
but that's actually what they've done. They've
Yes,
taken
they've taken
everything out
Yes.
and put a few
And
things
put
back.
other things, yes. Yeah.
You know,
I'll
on your,
write it better, but
Putting-
it's not.
Putting vitamins in it.
that's what they say, yeah. So that's what it is. It means that they're putting things in. And maybe it's things that weren't there before, like they've enriched salt, called it iodized salt, you know. So they put iodine in where it wasn't there before, things like that. But they put something in. But they do it especially with flour. They take all the stuff out because if they left it that way on the shelf, the bugs would eat it and it would get rancid too quickly. So they take all the good stuff out and then they put some of it back. That's what their term of enriched is. Fortified. So you'll see this like on milk. Milk is fortified, they call it fortified. They put in vitamin D, sometimes calcium. Some of your orange juices, you'll see calcium added and stuff like that. Another thing that you can see on there is high fructose corn syrup. Okay? It's a sweetener that they use instead of sugar in manufacturing. And it is not good for you at all. Very bad. And they know it's not good, and so because of that, they don't always put high fructose corn syrup in there. They'll use other terms. And so you have to start learning, what are they calling it now? Because they keep changing it.
That's how they approved in Tyson's chickens and stuff like that, their food. They've approved putting ground up bugs in it, right? But they don't use the word bugs, they use a scientific word.
Right.
So people don't.
Yeah, so you don't know what it is.
Totally usually buy.
Okay, so the next word is hydrogenated. What does hydrogenated mean? You see this on oils. What does it mean? Okay, so according to the definition here, hydrogenation turns a liquid fat, such as a vegetable oil, into a semi-solid or a more stable fat, like margarine. They take oil and they do things to it to make it hydrogenated so that it looks like butter, like margarine. It looks like shortening. It's solid. Or some can be partially hydrogenated. And when you start heating those things up, it does really bad things. It changes them into what is called trans fat. Have you heard that word before? Trans fat. That's where they get that. They're taking mostly the hydrogenated oils and heating them up past their heat smoke point, and it changes them into a trans fat, which is very dangerous for us. Very dangerous, not good. Okay, lecithin. That's added to some things like chocolates, baking products, and cosmetics. It's used as a thinner, a preservative, or an emulsifier. Like egg yolks, soybeans, fish, and other foods naturally contain lecithin. So lecithin by itself is not necessarily bad, but sometimes it's added and it shouldn't be bad. I mean, it shouldn't be, it's not always good, but I mean, it's not always bad either. You have to really pay attention to what's going on. Modified cornstarch. Well, that's extracted from corn, potato, wheat, and other starches. Then they modify it or change it, and it's used as a thickener, a stabilizer, or a fat replacer in foods like dessert mixes, dressings, and confections. I don't really like modified food starches. I like to use my own stuff rather than what they put in. MSG, monosodium glutamate. We've heard of that before, right? It's like a salt, it's a flavor enhancer. That's one reason, like especially the Chinese use it as a flavor enhancer. It's the USDA considers it generally safe. Generally safe. I don't think it's generally safe, but they do. I personally don't want it. But the other thing, like we were mentioning again earlier about high fructose corn syrup, the same thing is happening with MSG. They're changing the words. They're changing how they put it on the label because they're knowing that people are starting to say, "Oh, I don't want MSG." So that if they see it on the label, they'll not get it. So then they put something else in there, even though it's the same thing. They call it something else so that you don't recognize it, and they keep changing what they call it.
Like the bugs.
Yes, yes, that's going to be more and more. The left is really starting to push that.
They're saying because it's high in protein, but then the bugs have this stuff called chitin in it. CHITIN. It's undigestible. That means whoever is going to be eating this is not really getting the protein. They're just going to get weak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, on the back side. Monounsaturated fats. A healthy fat that's found in foods such as nuts, olive oil, and avocados. When used to replace saturated fats, it's a diet high in monounsaturated fats. Can have lower bad cholesterol, and most of the fat in your diet should be the mono and the polyunsaturated. You don't want to have a high amount of some of these, especially the hydrogenated, partially hydrogenated, and some of those are really bad. But that's what a monounsaturated is. The saturated fats come mostly from your meat products, okay? Then the polyunsaturated fat is found in foods such as walnuts, salmon, and soybean. They provide essential fatty acids such as omega-3 and omega-6 to our diets. And so most of what you should be eating are those. Potassium is listed on there. That's another thing that's essential. It's one of those electrolytes that we mentioned last fall. When we were talking about magnesium. Potassium is another one of those electrolytes that is very, very important. The electrolytes are used in your system to help change things from one thing to something else, to break something down into its multiple parts and then redistribute it and put them together at the other end. That's some of what your potassium is used for. Potassium is very important in electrical connections in your system, with your heart, your kidneys, your blood pressure. It's important. You can't live without potassium. You have to have it. And like it says there, it's found in bananas, nuts, potatoes, dairy, and other foods. And they're saying you should aim for 4,700 milligrams of potassium daily. I don't know for sure. That's another one I have a hard time measuring. You know, if you're not taking it in something that has it listed on the label, exactly how much it is, it's really hard to tell. Okay, I'm taking 5 nuts. How much is that going to have potassium? Or I'm eating a banana. I can eat a banana this big or one this big. How do I know? You know, it's kind of hard to know specifically what you're getting. Saturated fat are oils that are solid at room temperature, like butter, like shortening, like anything like that that's solid at room temperature. And like I said, they're found in meat products and milk. And also things like coconut and palm oils, they also are saturated. The saturated fat is often used in foods to prevent rancidity and off flavors. You don't want a lot of this, you know, like you don't want to be eating a lot of frosting on your cake that has all this shortening and sugar in it. That's not what you want to be eating a lot of.
The shortening is hydrogenated oil anyway.
Yeah, but it becomes saturated because it's room temperature. Or you could be using coconut oil, which is better, or something like that, or butter. That's even better. But anyway, it's a saturated oil. Serving size. This is another thing. When you're reading labels, you want to read what is the serving size, because one day I remember several years ago, I went to take this drink. I bought this drink, and I thought, oh, it says it has 110 calories. Not bad at all. That's good. Until I read it was 3.5 servings. And I go, 3.5 servings for this one little thing? That's 3.5 servings. So you have to multiply that 110 by 3.5. That's a lot of calories in that one thing. So that is important. The other reason it's important is I realized, several months ago, I had not really paid attention when I was making oatmeal. And I was, for breakfast, and I was serving each of us half a cup of oatmeal until I read the box one day. It says a third a cup. And I go, I'm making too much. We're actually consuming more than we should be consuming. So you need to look at the serving size and and look. And then on your nutrition facts, you've got to multiply it by the serving size. So anyway, sodium or salt. It's another one of your electrolytes. And you shouldn't say, get rid of salt. I don't want any salt. You have to have salt. My first real understanding of this was several years ago. We had a gal in the church, and she kept going into the hospital because she'd black out. And she'd go into the hospital, and they'd say, you're dehydrated, and they'd pump her into a bunch of sodium because she was way low sodium, and it threw her electrolytes all way off. And we're like, they didn't say you got too much sodium, they said you don't have enough. So it is important. They say for your heart and stuff not to get too much, but generally there are things that you can do to cut down on your sodium and not get too much. But you do want to make sure you get some sodium and don't cut it completely out, because it's very important. But you can totally eliminate the table salt that you buy in the store, Morton's table salt. It doesn't have any nutrition in it. It is chemical. It's chemicals. That's not the salt you want at all. And that will drive your blood pressure high. You do not want that chemical salt. You want a natural salt.
My husband goes over the top trying not to do, sodium, no salt added, everything. I don't want to tell him, like celery has a lot of natural salt in it.
Which is good for you.
Yeah,
And it's good for you. But when you're going out and buying processed foods, most of the time they are not adding natural salt. They're adding the table salt, which is all chemical. You don't want that. And that will cause your blood pressure to go really high. It's the natural salt you want. And I've been changing my thinking a little bit on salt lately, and I'm not going to really get into it today because I don't think I have time. I want to show you a couple videos and stuff. But something that I was just reading just in the last week or so was talking about Himalayan salt. And my thinking in the past had been, it's probably the most nutritious because it's clear up in the Himalayan mountains, so it probably got deposited there during the flood before there was all these chemicals floating around in our oceans, so it's probably purer. And that probably is true, but there's a couple of things I've been hearing. One is the pinkness might be things in it that are, even though it says it has 70 or 80 some different naturally occurring minerals, some of those minerals are not necessarily good for you or might be in higher concentrations than you want. that is something to be careful of. The other thing that I had not thought of until I heard it this last week is that the Himalayan salt is mined. It's not on the surface, it's mined, and therefore it's compacted really hard to where it became a rock. And because of that, your body has a hard time digesting it because it's too hard. So they say either you need to soak it in water, a little bit of water, to let it soften over like 24 hours, or do something. You gotta do something, because it has a hard time digesting it. So it's like, oh, haven't thought about that. Something I have heard just recently is that we have supposedly a very good form of salt not far away from us, down in Netarts Bay. It's supposed to be it's been tested for chemicals and contaminants and everything. It's supposed to be very, very good for us. It's called Jacobson salt. And it's raised there in the Netarts Bay, and they're saying that because of the oysters, the oysters take in the bad pollutants, and so they take the bad pollutants out of the water, and then it allows the salt to be.
There's some place close by here when we were kids, we used to go scrape it off the rocks and eat it right off the rocks. I don't know where, but it's close by. My parents used to take us there when we get our own salt.
Oh,
It's close by. I don't know. I can't remember where. It was when I was really little.
So anyway, where were we at? That was on sodium. Okay, sugars. So they'll add all kinds of sugars in there, and what you want to make sure when you're getting a product is it's best if you make it yourself and not use processed. That way you know what's going into it. But you want to check to see what they're adding for their sugars. But there's all kinds of added sugars that they can put: sucralose, glucose, fructose, corn, maple syrups, all kinds. There's lactose, fructose, all of these different kinds of sugars that can be in foods. And I just be careful with the sugars, and especially the amounts. But a lot of those sugars are not good for you, so you want to be careful what you're doing. Watch your total number of calories, carbohydrates, total fat, trans fat. Here's a definition: whole grain. Whole grain foods include the bran, which is the nutrient-rich germ and endosperm of grains such as wheat, oats, or rice. Examples include brown rice, corn, and whole wheat bread. Whole grain foods have more fiber, vitamins, minerals than the processed white ones. So there you're getting more of your fiber too. Okay, there's that one. I'm still doing okay. Then 7 common label terms. Yours is not colored, mine's colored. Going to what that is. Non-GMO. So who knows what GMO means?
Genetically modified.
Genetically modified. And this is something new. They didn't do this 50 years ago. Okay? They didn't do this. But now they've gotten to the point where with technology, somehow
Bioengineered.
they can go in there and split the gene apart and insert something in there. And that's not the way God intended it. God never intended all of that. He made it the way He wanted it. Yes.
They're using a 3D machine to make the bioengineered meat and using a 3D machine to make it look like a steak. So it's not like a real steak, but it's like 3D meat made.
what's it made of?
I have no idea. Some kind of plant-based stuff.
Okay.
Bugs.
All I
That's
saw
what
was
we're going
the
to get
3D
into a little bit
machine.
later. Let's look at gluten-free. Now, there are a lot of gluten-free foods out there, and some people think, oh, it's gluten-free, therefore it must be good for me. And I do not do well with most gluten-free foods. Now, I don't like eating a lot of gluten, okay? I don't. But most of the gluten-free foods out there have other things in them that are worse for me than the gluten. One of them is that they usually use grains that are higher in sugar content. If you're having sugar issues like diabetes or something like that, that can be a real issue with you. Now, if you are celiac, which is you're allergic to gluten, you have to avoid gluten. But you need to be watching not just that it says gluten-free. You need to be looking at everything else. What flours are they using in there? What are they using to make it up? Because just because it says gluten-free doesn't necessarily mean it's healthy. USDA organic or certified organic. That's the terms that are mostly used out there in the store today. We're going to talk about them a little bit later. So I have a video I want to show you on this. But one thing I want to mention is that the definitions of organic are different in the United States than they are around the world. So if you're getting a product that's been brought in, like a spice or something that's brought in from another country, or a banana, or an orange, or a whatever, that's brought in from another country, you got to realize what is their definition. U.S. has probably one of the strictest of definitions. But out there, I was listening to someone, a gal that used to come to church here. She was saying, she says, I gave up on organic. She says, one day we went to this like banana orchard or apple orchard or a fruit orchard. Anyway, and she said, what's that bag around part of the tree? Oh, that's the organic stuff.
Sure, that's
So, what that just means is that it didn't get sprayed physically on the outside with the spray stuff. But it has nothing to do with, they could be putting all kinds of things into the soil, and that stuff can be coming right up through the roots and going in, and all that stuff can be poisoning the fruit. But that was their definition. That organic was they just didn't spray it with the stuff on the outside. Okay. Another thing to be looking at is farm raised. What that is. Do you know? Does someone know what farm raised fish is?
that means it's raised in a tank.
It's raised in a tank. It is not raised in the ocean. Okay? Do you know what it does to the omegas in a fish or other animal when it's raised in a farm situation like that versus out in?
I don't know.
No one knows?
My husband might know because he's like, no, we don't want the farm raised. We gotta look for the
Because they're using
wild
chemicals
caught.
in order to produce.
They do. And they use, I remember years ago when I was going to Bible school, they closed down a fish farm or something, and they gave all this fish to the church, or to the school. And we ate it, and I go, oh, this is terrible tasting. It tasted like mud. Oh, it was horrible, because it was fed all of that pellets and whatever it was. It just, when we were growing up, we went fishing and we got all those native trout and all that stuff, and it tasted so good, but this was like, yuck, it tasted terrible. But what it does with the omega-3s, and this is also with chickens, eggs, has to do with all of those things. If they are allowed to go out and graze out in the pastures and eat the little bugs and do all of those things, or the fish, if they're out swimming in the ocean, they get all the natural food that they're supposed to. Those animals, fish, chickens, whatever, produce more omega-3s. Okay? Omega-3s is the one they keep telling you need, is the omega-3s. You need a higher percentage of those. If they are raised in a farm situation, whether it's a cow and chicken or the eggs or the whatever, or the fish, in a farm situation, they produce omega-6s, which we get way more than we need in our modern diet of omega-6s. And you're supposed to have a much higher percentage of omega-3s. If you have too much omega-6s, it decreases your omega-3s and pushes them even lower. You need to have higher omega-3s. And that's why you do not want farm-raised.
Or bioengineered.
Or bioengineered, okay? So you want it, instead of saying farm-raised, you want to say wild or pasture-raised or, farm-fed, grass-fed, any of those terms. I'm going to let you read the rest of this. I'm going to quickly go over your other last one, and then I'm going to show these videos. 8 reasons why you're sick, even if you eat healthy. And actually, I'm going to add 2 more of them to the list. So I'm going to let you read most of this, but I'm going to just go through them. Number 1, we live in a fallen world. Everything from the soil to the food to the body is corrupted. We have genetic mutations, and food is less nutritious than the Garden of Eden. All of that stuff. So all of that's happening. That's number 1. Number 2, detox. When we start eating healthier, our bodies may release stored toxins that have been accumulating for years. And that can cause us to not feel good until that stuff gets passed. And if you're going through that kind of a thing, one of the best things you can do is slow down. And whatever you're doing, like if you're eating a whole bunch of something to make you feel better, eat a smaller amount. And it'll help you to detox at a slower rate, and you won't get those sick feelings as bad, okay? So that's one thing. Healthy lifestyles. We're under a lot of stress. As the world gets closer and closer to the end here, the stress level is going up. We don't drink enough water, or some drink too much water. We don't get enough quality sleep. We're still turning to things like sugar and caffeine to keep us going. We need to work on our attitude or cultivate great gratitude or positivity and happiness. Those are some of the things there. In Proverbs 17:22, a merry heart doth good like a medicine. And in Proverbs 15:13, a merry heart maketh a cheerful countenance. Again, if you want some of these links, let me know and I'll email it to you, and then you can click on some of those links and it will pull them up for you. Elimination. Like I said earlier, you need to be eliminating at least twice daily, okay? She says a minimum of once per day, but it's really should be twice per day, at least. Make sure you're getting your fiber to help. The fiber helps also, not only does it help you eliminate it, but that's what helps move the toxins out of your system. Okay. Then mineral deficiencies is another big thing. And that's because our soil has been depleted, that's raising our crops. And it doesn't have all of things in it, like zinc and magnesium and potassium, selenium, and molybdenum, and all of that stuff. And that's another reason why there's a lot of people that are chronically sick, is because we're not getting the nutrients, because it's not in our soil, so it's not getting in our foods. So that's another reason. Number 6, vitamin support. We might need certain vitamins. There might be some B vitamins, especially our ones that you hear a lot of people need some of those B vitamins to help them get through. Or some vitamin D. And the best place to get your vitamin D is from the sun. Get outside and walk when it's not pouring rain. So, okay. Number 7, you might need to avoid certain foods or food groups temporarily or permanent because they are making you sick. Actually, this is number one of them that I had. God created you differently than everyone else. Everyone He created unique. And just because I can eat something and I do great on it doesn't mean you will. You need to be your own judge and go, well, I ate this and I didn't feel so good. Well then, try cutting it out and see if you feel better. You need to start paying attention to your system and what does well with your system. And number 8, God. God works through our bodies to teach us things He wants us to learn. We learned about Job. We studied about Job. Was that last year? That was last year. Remember? all the things that came upon Job, was it because of things that he ate? No, it was because Satan was up there inciting God against him, right? So you might be doing everything right and have no genetic issues, yet we still might be sick because he wants us to learn something through physical suffering. That happens. Sometimes, Apostle Paul even, he had that, what we call thorn in the flesh. We don't know exactly what it was. Some have speculated that it had something to do with his eyesight. We don't know for sure. But God gave it to him to keep him from getting too proud. God might be taking us through something, and that might be where it's coming from. And therefore, we need to be looking to what is God saying, not all the stuff around. We need to be aware of what might God be trying to tell me through this. So that's another thing. I'll let you read the rest of that. And I have one other thing that I wanted to mention here. Like we talked about, last week. It was last week. Remember that visual I gave you of the basements flooding? All of that flooding going on? So it might be that in all of this you going, I'm eating healthy, so maybe you stopped the water coming in, but you're really not going to start feeling a whole lot better until you start getting the junk out, okay? It's still there. You might have stopped it and slowed it, and that's good. You need to do that, but you also have to be eliminating it out and getting it out. Until you get enough of it out, you're not going to really have a reversal of some of that sickness and symptoms that you have. You have to have both going on. You can't just do one thing. You've got to do both. So you've got to stop the leaks and you've got to pump out the stuff and clean up the swamp. So I have, I wanted to go over this too, but we're going to probably have to cover that another time. Because I have a couple of cute videos that I want to show you. If I have time afterwards, I'll go into some of this. But let's show you a couple of these videos. Let's turn off this light. It's going to be harder to see with the light on. Okay.
This is the side you really need to read.
Thank you.
Protein. This is for soy protein.
Okay. Hopefully I'll just
Too much soy can be bad for the cat. Well, I know, but it didn't.
It's not having me sound.
Did the soundbar go to sleep?
I tried turning it on. Why is it not coming on? There it comes.
Yes.
It's still not doing it. So it must be in the wrong mode. Well, I'm going to put this on for a minute to just get the right mode. Mode. Oops. I had it. Now I got to go back again.
This will be a cap and coat.
Everything upon the face of the earth.
I'll go back and start this again.
Today, God's raised up. Observe his limits. In the beginning, God created all things good, and all life prospered in perfect balance and harmony, each form conferring advantage to others. And for food, he gave man every green herb that yields seed, every tree that bears fruit, and every moving thing upon the face of the earth. Today, God's trees are grown and raised within the limits of his perfect design and produce only good. They do not defy the laws of nature or degrade the environment. Picture a garden. A diverse population of organisms, big and small, young and old, plants and animals, living together, sharing resources, and each contributing to the health of the community. On the richest soil, to the tallest tree, and all life in between, nothing is neglected. The waste of one serves the needs of another. Without the one, the rest suffer. All for one, and one for all. Natural foods thrive in these rich and diverse ecosystems. Think of life. All life springs from the soil until it returns on its dying day. The healthy soil contains billions of microorganisms, fungi, and invertebrates, all cooperating to support the cycle of life. The soil community dissolves minerals stored in rocks, liberates nutrients trapped in decaying matter, and converts these energy sources into forms usually assimilated by all other creatures. A dead soil is devoid of life. It is nothing more than rocks, sand, and clay, and nothing good comes from a dead soil, especially poisoned by chemical fertilizers. Organic foods come from living soils. Picture it. Cold foods are easily identified. They are not processed beyond recognition. They possess distinct shapes, colors, and textures. Draw a picture of a whole food and others will recognize it. It is unmistakable, even at a distance. Get real. Real foods are prepared naturally to preserve or enhance their nutritional value. They do not cause cravings, discomfort, or eating disorders. They are fun to eat, give sustaining energy, and heal our bodies. Take real yogurt, where raw milk from a pastured animal is cultured with friendly bacteria to make a deliciously satisfying, energy-conferring, and gut-healing food. So eat up, your body will thank you. Know the source. Locally grown foods are raised within a person's neighborhood or community. They are not shipped many miles across land or sea from an unknown and untested source. Instead, the relationship between the local farmer and consumer is mutually beneficial. The farmer grows better food under his customers' trust-seeking eyes and makes a good living doing it. The customer benefits from healthier food, lower prices, and the joy of supporting a local family farmer. Everyone benefits. Get instinct. Eat in harmony with the cycles of God's natural world. Do not demand out-of-season foods that strain distant resources, inflate food costs, and worsen transportation routes. Instead, consume foods during their prime growing season and benefit from the overabundance and peak nutrition of seasonal foods. It's the best deal all around.
Okay, that was put out by a company I've been taking classes from for several years called Traditional Cooking Schools. When they first started, they called themselves Gnauflins, and that's what they were using, those letters to spell out Gnauflins to help you understand what they were aiming to do. And that's what that does. This video that I just showed you was done in actually 2010 when they first started. That was their very first video that they did. And their daughter that did the voiceover on that, she is now grown and has kids of her own. So, so anyway, I'm going to show you one more.
And it's basically, it's gonna be natural versus organic video, and it's just about 11 minutes. I'm gonna show you that and then see if we have any time left.
Hi everyone, I'm Lori from Traditional Cooking School by Ganopoulos. In this video, we're going to talk about the terms natural and organic. Now, these are two of the terms in Ganopoulos, God's natural, organic, whole foods grown locally in season. I would say of all those terms, they can be the most confusing because most people don't really know what they mean. And at Traditional Cooking School, eating Ganopoulos, we take it a lot further. But let's start back at what they actually mean so we can evaluate our food supply ingredients based on what they really mean and see where to go from there. So first, let's talk about natural. Natural really doesn't mean much. If you see it on a food label in the stores, all it means really is that that food is free from artificial ingredients. So it might be on a flour package, but the flour is still bleached. It might be on a box of crackers or pasta. It might be on some processed food that uses white sugar instead of artificial sweetener. There are some foods that, because of processing, contain a naturally occurring substance called MSG, monosodium glutamate, and they are still called natural. And then there are natural meat and other poultry products, which means that they're minimally processed without adding artificial ingredients like stabilizers, colorants, preservatives, and whatnot. So that's the marketplace definition of natural. But in Ganopoulos, God's natural, organic, whole foods grown locally in season, natural means the rich and diverse ecosystem that allows plants and animals to thrive and be nourished. So that's why in Ganopoulos, when we talk about natural, we actually want to go beyond the marketplace definition of natural, and we really want to look at, is the food that's being grown thriving and well nourished? Because if it is, then it provides nourishing food for us. An example would be chicken. So let's first look at the natural chicken that's in the marketplace. These chickens are probably raised in a concentrated animal feeding operation, so a crowded chicken house. They rarely see the light of day. They don't get to peck at insects in the green grass or even eat green grass. They don't get sunshine. The chickens are crowded in there, so as you can imagine, it probably smells quite bad. And so the chickens are given medications rather than a healthy diet to keep them back from the brink of disease or death. On the other hand, the Ganopoulos chicken, it's on a pasture, it's pecking at insects in the field, it's eating grass, it is doing its thing where its excrement goes right into the soil and this enriches the soil. Pecking at the insects and other things keeps the parasite load down for the other animals that might be on the pasture. So this is where we get the idea of this thriving and this rich and diverse ecosystem, and that is the definition of natural in Ganopoulos. Which chicken would you rather eat? You have the grocery store natural chicken, or you have the Ganopoulos natural chicken. Here's the point. If you follow the Ganopoulos definition of natural, you're going to find superior healthy food to support your and your family's health. And this food supports the health of the land and the other organisms living on that land. So if you want truly natural food, there's two ways to get it. One is to know your farmer. This could be somebody local to you, or it could be somebody far away that ships to you. But the point is, how are they raising the food? You know their methods and you're comfortable with their methods so that you're excited about eating their natural food. Second is to grow your own. And here you're following healthy growing methods that support a rich and diverse ecosystem so that every organism that's in it, from the chickens pecking at the insects to the cows, sheep, and goats on the pasture as well, they're all in this rich and diverse ecosystem thriving and being nourished and producing superior food. Now, not to overwhelm you, going after this beyond natural food is something that you're going to do more and more of over time. It's a standard we want to strive toward. We don't have to hit it every time, and we don't have to hit it all at once or at the very beginning. It's also not a law that should keep you in bondage. Do your best to find naturally grown food, and again, we're talking about the Ganopoulos definition of natural. If you can't find it, you can't find it. You want to do the best you can, and maybe someday you'll be able to grow it for yourself, or maybe someday somebody else will see a need and supply it in the local community. Our family is just like you. We're doing the best we can, working within where we live and what we have available. Okay, now let's talk about organic, because just like natural, grocery store organic is different than the organic in Gnaflins. Now, there are various agencies that certify food as organic, and they have varying levels of standards, and the minimum standard is USDA, and that's primarily the kind of food you see in the stores. It's USDA organic certified food. So we're going to deal with that right now when I talk about organic standards. According to the USDA, plant foods that are certified organic are foods that are produced without the use of chemical fertilizers, pesticides, or other artificial agents. USDA organic animals, which provide organic meat, poultry, dairy, and eggs, must eat only vegetarian feed, must not be given any growth hormones or antibiotics, and they must have access to pasture. These organic standards merely ensure that the inputs to the animals are not manufactured, but it's our opinion that they should go much further to ensure truly healthy organic food. Now, organic here at Traditional Cooking School in the term Gnaflins is more like the true dictionary definition of organic, which is of, relating to, or derived from living matter. And do you remember the definition of organic in Gnaflins? Organic foods are supported by a healthy soil teeming with life. Life. So a USDA organic tomato is grown by a farmer who's not looking at soil health or soil quality necessarily, wants to get a tomato to the marketplace that doesn't have fertilizers, pesticide residues, or other artificial inputs. Some of these things are good, of course. We don't want pesticide residues on our food, but because the farmer's not really focusing on the soil health, it's our argument that that tomato is not necessarily as healthy or as nourishing with deep nutrition as it could be. On the other hand, the Gnaflins tomato plant would be grown by a farmer who is really focusing on soil health. So there's worms and organic matter breaking down the nutrients and providing nutrition for that tomato plant. So it is so much more healthy, and therefore the tomatoes that it grows are so much more healthy. The tomato plant would be grown in the presence of other companion plants, which are plants that are known to do well together in terms of pollination and in terms of keeping the pest load down. During its life cycle, the farmer is constantly adding more organic matter into the soil, which provides nourishment to the plant. The tomatoes the plant produces are picked at the height of the season when they're at the height of nutrition and the height of color. And that means a super healthy tomato that's juicy and rich with nutrition. Which tomato would you rather have? The conventional tomato or the Gnaflins tomato? I think it's pretty obvious that if you go with the Gnaflins definition of organic, just as we did with the Gnaflins definition of natural, that you're going to have superior healthy food. This is whether you're talking about plants or animal foods. And to find a truly organic food, we're looking at the same options as we were before. First is to know your farmer, whether it's local to you or somewhat far away. Be comfortable with their organic methods and know that they're really trying to enrich the soil, because if the soil health is there, the plant health is there. Or you can grow your own, and in terms of organic, you're really focusing on building a rich soil that's teeming with life, because that produces the most nutritious plants and also produces the most nutritious feed if there's animals grazing on that plant. Let's just summarize. Because the conventional definitions of natural and organic don't necessarily ensure a healthy food result, you can't rely on these labels and just say, oh, that's healthy because it says natural, or oh, that's healthy because it says organic. It might not be as healthy as it could be if you went further, and that's what we call beyond natural or beyond organic. Quick caveat. Not all natural labeled, organic labeled foods are to be avoided. I don't mean to give you that impression. It's all about knowing the methods that are used. In this video, I'm simply wanting to point out that we can't simply say, oh, because it says natural, or oh, because it says organic, it's healthy. It might not be. And how do we know the difference? We know the difference if you know what the growing methods are. If it's the person down the street or the local farm that you can visit and you can see what they're doing, you can be confident in their growing methods. If it's a big corporation that's picking bananas or tomatoes or peppers in tropical areas when they're still green and not ripe, and shipping them thousands of miles only to quick ripen them before they're on the grocery store shelf, that's not as good, right? So it all comes down to knowing your farmer and knowing their methods. Having said that, I don't want to scare you. As you're going through this e-course, it's not that you can't shop for food at the grocery store. You absolutely can. Again, this is a journey, and the only way we can get better is to know the issues and then work on them over time. Do the best you can. This is a process where we all, including me, are getting better over time. We want this idea of Gnauflins to encourage you, not to deter you. You simply do the best you can. And when you have the right information, that means that over time, you can change and grow as more options become available. And I'll leave you with this. Why do we eat Gnauflins? It's not a law, it's not a set of rules. We do it because we know that God made these foods for our nourishment, and that when we seek them out and do our best to incorporate them into our diets, that what we're really doing is recognizing His design and giving Him glory, which is all a heart response and not a checklist response. We want to serve the Lord with our hearts and our hands, giving Him glory out of praise to His design and not because we have to. Please download the printable materials that come with this video, because you'll get a lot more information to guide you as you get more and more Gnauflins into your and your family's diet. I'm going to stop there because I took this out of a class, and so that's why she talks about the class or the course. So anyway, but she gave me permission to share that with you, and we're almost out of time. I'm just going to go over another list of a few things to think about, and I'm not going to go into depth of what they are, but here's some things to think about. 1, eat whole, unprocessed foods. Very good. 2, eat beef, lamb, game, organ meats, poultry, eggs from pastured-fed animals. 3, eat wild fish, not farmed, like we talked about, or shellfish from unpolluted water. One thing I want to bring out is that, it's been several years now that I heard this report, and at that time, the radiation in the water from Fukushima has been here now for several years. And when I heard this a few years ago, it was like from halfway up down California, or almost to California, I think, it was partway down already, all the way up, most of the way up Vancouver Island. So it was there. Now it's way beyond that. Mm-hmm. So in other words, all of our water out in front has got radiation in it. What does that do to our animals that are in it? Anything growing is going to have radiation. You need to remember that and think about that. So if you are able to get like salmon that's not local, but from like as far north up there in Alaska where the cold is, hopefully the radiation hasn't gotten there as much. That would be healthier than what's local because of the radiation. Okay? Just something to just think about. 4, eat full-fat milk products from pasture-fed cows or goats, preferably raw and or fermented, such as raw milk, whole yogurt, kefir, cultured butter, whole raw cheeses, and fresh and sour cream, and stuff like that. Look for it to be raw. 5, use animal fats, especially butter, liberally. 6, use traditional oils only, like extra virgin olive oil, expeller pressed sesame oil, small amounts of expeller pressed flax oils, coconut oils, palm oils, and stuff like that. Next, eat fresh fruits and vegetables, preferably organic, in salads and soups or lightly steamed with butter. Use whole grains, legumes, and nuts that have been prepared by soaking, sprouting, or sour leavening to neutralize phytic acid and enzyme inhibitors and other nutrients. And this is something that I learned several years ago now, and that is all grains, seeds, and nuts, all of them have what they call these anti-nutrients on them, which are the phytic acid and stuff like that are on the outside of them. And you need to neutralize them so that they don't disrupt what's happening in your gut. They can lead to leaky gut. They can lead to other things like that. They keep nutrients from being absorbed into your system properly. All of these things. And it's easy to do, and all of our ancestors used to do them. It's only been in the last 100 years that people stopped doing it. Okay? And it's basically soaking them ahead of time with a little bit of acidic in it, like either apple cider vinegar or lemon juice or whey or
something like that to neutralize that acid, and then it just takes care of it, and then you cook it like normal, and it doesn't have any of that issues. And if you want more questions, have more questions about that, I can talk to you later about that. Next, include enzyme-enhanced lacto-fermented vegetables, fruits, beverages, and condiments in your diet. They will give you that good bacteria that your gut needs to feed on, to help you eliminate properly, to help those nutrients get into your system the way it needs to go. Prepare homemade meat stocks from bones of chickens, beef, lamb, and fish, and use liberally in soups, stews, gravies, and sauces. Those bone broths are so nutritious, and they do so many things to help us heal. Use filtered water for cooking and drinking. Something I just heard that came out from the water company just recently. They now say our water contains lead. So it used to have, we don't have any fluoride in it, we don't have this and we don't have that. Well now, yes, there is fluoride in it. Yes, there's lead in it. We need to be getting that stuff out. We don't want to be consuming more of those toxins. Try to do your best you can to filter your water. Next, use unrefined salt and a variety of herbs and spices for food interest and appetite stimulation. Then make your own salad dressings using raw vinegar, extra virgin olive oil, and small amounts of expeller pressed flax oil, different things like that. Make your own. When I went looking in the health food store, trying to find a good salad dressing, it's almost impossible. They are all made, most of them are made with canola oil, which I don't believe is a healthy oil at all. And it's really hard to find one that has a good healthy oil in it. But they're easy to make if you will make it yourself. So that's something to think about. Next, use natural sweeteners in moderation, such as raw honey, maple syrup, maple sugar, date sugar, dehydrated cane juice, like sucanap or rapadura, and stevia powder, some different things like that. There are people are starting to say things yes and no about stevia, and I'm not going to get into that today and some of that, but that's just something to think about. Next, use only unpasteurized wine and beer in strict moderation with meals. I don't drink it at all, but you might. Next, cook only with stainless steel, cast iron, glass, or good quality enamel. The non-stick cookware they're finding has those, what they're calling, what do they call them? Eternal, forever, that's it, forever chemicals, because they take hundreds or thousands of years to break down, and you're gonna die long before they get out of your system, okay? So you don't wanna be using those. And next, use only natural food-based supplements. Most of the supplements out there on the market are not food-based, they are chemicals, okay? Even though they say something on the bottle, you need to know. I could do a lesson sometime on how to read the labels under supplements to know whether they're natural or synthetic. Almost all of them are synthetic. It's really hard to find food-based ones. Next, get plenty of sleep, exercise, and natural light. And last, think positive thoughts and practice forgiveness for God's glory. All of those things are things that are going to bring God glory. So that's it for today. Any questions before I wrap this up?
Well, I was gonna go grocery shopping.
Maybe not
Still
today.
can. Just keep some things in mind and make the best choices that you can make.
I usually do.
Yeah, but like you said, the outside aisles is generally the best.
I learned that at Jenny Craig.
Yeah.
Like 30 years ago.
Yeah, the outside aisles. Okay. And like she was saying in the video, this is a process, and it's going to take us time to learn all of these things. It's not going to come overnight. So just remember that. Do the best you can, and as you learn more, then change it. Make one step at a time. You don't have to do everything overnight. One step at a time, and you'll be doing it to honor and glorify God. I'm getting ready to take another class from this gal that was on the video here. I loved her classes, and I've taken this class before and didn't get it all the way through. I'm taking another one. It's on sourdough. I want to learn how to make some more things. I've really gotten down English muffins and skillet pancakes, but I need to work on some of my other things. So I'm going to try to work on some of those things and see how many I'll get done in the next 18 weeks. I don't know how much I'll get done, but I'm going to make progress, right?
Yes.
Make progress. So if anyone is interested in taking a class like this from her or something, let me know and I'll show you how to get in touch with her. So, let's close with a word of prayer. Our gracious Heavenly Father, I just want to thank you for these ladies and their desire to learn how to live and eat and everything to glorify you. Lord, you had a purpose when you put us here on this earth, and you had a plan for us. And I really believe your plan did not include us eating a whole bunch of chemicals. That's not what you gave us to eat. You told us what we could eat, and all of these lovely fruits and vegetables and plants that are around, you gave us to eat, and not chemicals. And so, Lord, I just pray that you'll help us to learn these things and step by step get closer and closer to what you would have us, how you would have us to live. And I just thank you for that now in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Happy birthday.